The day after he learned his son's bullet-riddled corpse had been buried in an unmarked grave in Kashmir, Abu Asiram's father invited his friends to celebrate his marriage to the Huris of paradise. The long months of his training in a Lashkar-e-Taiba camp had been his mangni or engagement. A few days before his death, it was said, his mother had a vision of her son dressed in beautiful white clothes, surrounded by trees and flowers, drinking milk. A scene that many of you will know evokes a familiar Punjabi wedding ritual. Like it has so often in the past, India this week has been considering how to respond to the savage violence inflicted by the Lashkar-e-Taiba's cult of death. The killing at Baisaran Maidan in Pahalgam is far from the first mass killing where jihadists executed victims picked up only because of their Hindu faith. Hundreds have been similarly killed in the course of Kashmir's long jihad. The Pahalgam killing, though, poses a strategic problem too. Ever since troops struck across the line of control in 2016, followed up by an airstrike 3 years later, India believed it had drawn red lines for which Pakistan's generals would ensure that jihadis' proxies would not cross for fear of war. Since 2016, there have been no jihadist attacks outside Jammu and Kashmir. And for 5 years after 2019, violence inside Kashmir diminished to negligible levels. Little imagination is needed to see that the tempo of killing is picking up again, though. There's been a string of ambushes targeting Indian troops, as well as strikes on Hindu pilgrims and villagers. And inside Pakistan, the Lashkar has re-emerged from the box it was hidden in when the country faced the risk of international financial sanctions. Lashkar organizers are openly celebrating the death of their cadre in Kashmir again. Two questions are key to shaping India's response. First, did India really succeed in coercing Pakistan into respecting its red lines? Or did Pakistan merely engage in a tactical pause to suit its own ends? And if so, what might a genuine coercive strategy to enforce those red lines look like now? From the moment of its birth in 1947, the Pakistan Army engaged in the political mobilization of Islam. Local clerics, the historian Ilyas Chatta has recorded, helped mobilize ethnic Pashtun militia and demobilize British Indian Army soldiers who waged war in Kashmir back in 1947. The use of Islamic themes was central to the long covert war waged in Kashmir by Pakistani intelligence, leading up to the invasion of the state in 1965. As scholar C. Christine Fair has shown, the Pakistan Army sees itself as a custodian of this jihadist national ideology and as the instrument of its execution. Even when engaged in a war against jihadists who have turned on the state, the army sees the broader jihadist movement itself as an ally. Thus, in 2014, 11 Corps Commander Lieutenant General Syed Safdar Hussain garlanded the jihadist Naik Mohammad Wazir, only recently responsible for the killing of dozens of his troops, as though welcoming home a prodigal son. When Pakistan attacks India, if you look into history, you will see tribals defending 14,000 kilometers of the border. Naik Mohammad in turn promised the general. The tribal people, he went on, are Pakistan's atomic bomb. There's no doubt that General Asim Munir has rolled back restraints on jihadist operations in Kashmir now. 3 wars have been fought for Kashmir, and if 10 more need to be fought, we will fight, he declared at a Kashmir Solidarity event just in February. Language like this, though, isn't unusual in Pakistan's establishment. Former Army Chief General Ashfaq Parvez Kayani, who rolled back the India-Pakistan deterrent process initiated by his predecessor and presided over 2611, expressed pride that, I quote, the nation has never forgotten the sacrifices of its martyrs and holy warriors. There is no greater honor than martyrdom, he insisted, nor any aspiration greater than it. Any jihadi propagandist would be happy of those words. General Raheel Sharif, Kayani's successor, told an audience at General Headquarters in Rawalpindi that, again I quote, Kashmir is Pakistan's shehrag or jugular vein. To him, it was apparent that war in Kashmir was, I quote, nothing less than a struggle for the very existence of Pakistan as a viable nation state. Lasting peace, he later argued, is impossible without the solution of the Kashmir issues. These sentiments were not confined to generals and very common among the wider political elite as well. Top politicians and bureaucrats, leaked American diplomatic cables reveal, participated in Lashkar activities openly as late as 2007. The then Defense Parliamentary Secretary said he was, quote, proud to be a member. The leaked cables also show that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, then Chief Minister of Punjab, helped the Lashkar evade United Nations sanctions in the weeks after the 2008 Mumbai attacks. Two chiefs of the Pakistan Army, General Parvez Musharraf and General Qamar Javed Bajwa, did indeed respond to coercion. Following the near war of 2001-2002, General Musharraf initiated a ceasefire on the line of control and began a political dialogue aimed at ending the conflict in Kashmir. General Bajwa, for his part, reached out after the 2019 airstrikes to begin an ISI Research and Analysis Wing secret dialogue. Little evidence exists, though, that either of these generals felt militarily defeated in Kashmir. First-person accounts gathered by the scholar George Perkovich suggest General Musharraf believed his nuclear weapons had successfully deterred India from going to war in 2001-2002. He chose dialogue on Kashmir not because he was worried about military defeat, but because the crisis was damaging his plans to economically develop Pakistan. Likewise, General Bajwa privately told journalists the Pakistani economy simply could not sustain a war. Theirs were pragmatic tactical maneuvers, not changes of strategic heart. 5 choices now face Prime Minister Narendra Modi after the Pahalgam attack, each of which India has already attempted in some form with mixed results. First, he could authorize airstrikes on Lashkar facilities around Muzaffarabad or even its sprawling headquarters complex at Muridke near Lahore. There is, however, no certainty that this will impose significant damage. The 2019 bombing of the Balakot Seminary, after all, failed to hit its intended target, demonstrating the continuing problems that confront precision bombing. Just as crucially, the Pakistan Air Force proved in 2019 that it could hit back. There's no guarantee, therefore, of victory. The second option, similar to the one Prime Minister Modi used in 2016, would be to authorize limited strikes by ground forces across the line of control. This would involve fewer risks than air warfare, but also uncertain gains. The unraveling of the ceasefire on the line of control put in place by General Bajwa after 2019 would make infiltration easier for jihadists, since they would be able to take advantage of covering fire on Indian army positions. Moreover, India has a long history of staging ground strikes with limited results. India regularly carried out unpublicized retaliatory actions across the line of control before 2016, for example, destroying Pakistani forward posts after the kidnapping and beheading of its soldiers in raids by that country's special forces in 2011 and 2013. These raids were successful, but they did not diminish terrorist violence. Third, the Prime Minister could authorize the use of covert means like the assassination of top jihadist leaders. This is a strategy India is believed to have pursued with considerable success in recent years. Though this will help punish perpetrators of violence, there is no evidence it will retard terrorist operations in the long term. A lesson Israel, for example, has learned the hard way in Gaza and Lebanon. Fourth, India could consider wider, more conventional operations of the kind it contemplated in 2001-2002, but more carefully crafted to avoid the problems of mobility and escalation that undermined that effort. General H.S. Panag, former Northern Army commander and a contributor to ThePrint, has suggested a limited offensive campaign along the line of control could impose punitive reputational and military costs on the Pakistan Army while minimizing the risks of escalation that could end in the use of nuclear weapons. As Pranay Kotasthane has shown, though, India's armed forces have been underfunded and under-resourced for years, diminishing their edge over Pakistan. And then there's the question of consequences. A Pakistani army delegitimized by military defeat on the line of control might prove even less effective at reining in or limiting jihadist infiltration. India might be able to establish a new line of control, but with all the old problems. Finally, there's a fifth option, which is the most painful and inconceivable: to do nothing except symbolic diplomatic actions. This is the path Prime Minister Manmohan Singh took after 26/11. After his military commanders informed him they simply could not guarantee a decisive victory over Pakistan. The actions taken so far by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, like cutting back diplomatic ties and placing the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance, seem to be crafted from much the same template. The scholar R. Rajaraman once described the India-Pakistan contestation as a three-body problem. Those of you who study physics will be familiar with that term. It is used to describe the extraordinary complexities of determining the motion of three celestial objects moving under no influence other than their mutual gravitation. The motion of three bodies orbiting each other becomes chaotic, and except in some exceptional cases, no equation can always solve it. Even though Rajaraman's reference was to the impact of China on India-Pakistan conflict, there are other powerful gravitational influences too. Among other things, the Kashmir conflict is shaped by the Pakistan Army's struggle for primacy within the state it rules, the struggle of political forces committed to transforming Pakistan into an Islamic state, and even the unresolved resentments and griefs of partition. Islamabad has learned that it cannot win Kashmir. The purpose of its military is not to capture Kashmir or make strategic gains for Pakistan, but to inflict suffering on India. 4 wars, each a defeat for Pakistan, as well as an insurgency that has cost tens of thousands of lives, have failed to change this reality. To restore India's red lines in Kashmir will need a careful, reflective strategy, not action taken in a spasm of rage. I'm Praveen Swami, and I'm a contributing editor to ThePrint. Thank you for watching this episode of Security Code.